So without any further ado, we're going to get into another conversation. We just had a fabulous conversation about STEM education and or training. So we're going to talk about what do we have to do as a nation to make STEM cool, right? We're going to have moderating this conversation, actually someone who was just on the previous panel who runs the STEM programs for Prince George's County Public Schools. And she's going to come up and help us to, pose some questions to our panelists in a way that will allow them to really focus on this conversation. That's Dr. Felicia Martin-Latif, who's the STEM supervisor for Prince George's County Public Schools. She is a doctorate of education, of course, but she also focuses on this instructional supervising for the county school systems. And doing this, one of their focuses is to make sure that all students are excited about STEM. So that's exactly what this conversation is about, right? She is, of course, a brilliant person both in the classroom as well as in the administration, and so she understands it from both a teaching perspective as well as from an administrative perspective. So let's set the stage, and we're going to do that by asking everybody who's in the room, first of all, before we introduce the speakers, to introduce yourselves. So we want you all to get up, come closer and introduce yourselves at the mic, and so also you can be kind of closer into the conversation. So starting from this young lady, I have a couple young ladies. Yep, come on over. Yep, you and the other young lady behind you and yourself. Gentlemen, can you come in and introduce yourself? And we're going to have everybody really engage in this iterative conversation, because this is unlike the other conversation. Yes, you as well, young man. Come to the microphone, introduce yourself. We want to have a brainstorming session. That's really what this is about, having a brainstorming session about how we make this room packed, literally, the next time we have it, and how do we make sure that people are as excited about STEM as they are about football. And in football games, you can have 50,000 people in a stadium, right? And we have, a fraction thereof right now. So how do we change that, right? So again, let's start off with you. You'll introduce yourselves, and then the moderator will come on and introduce the panelists, and we'll have an iterative conversation about how do we make STEM cool. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Roberson. My background is mathematics. I received my PhD in mathematics from Stony Brook University in 2010. I also went to a HBCU undergrad, Spelman College. I came out here today because I've been trying to tackle that problem myself, starting with my own family. My cousin's a freshman at Howard University this fall, and I came in and helped her sort through and stuff, and had been encouraging her to pursue math, and I've been really kind of working with her to just get oriented this semester. And along that journey, I found out that, for instance, only 8 math majors graduated last year at Howard. And so I've ended up, I was actually at her class today. They're having, they were reviewing for the first exam, so I've been kind of right by her side. I've joined the math club, and everybody kind of asked me, what can you do in that? And so I've kind of engaged people with what I'm currently doing, and kind of started this thing on Instagram, Math Mondays. So I'm helping the kids in her class study for their exams. I've been kind of opening my life to letting them see what I do and how different people look, and just my experience. So that's why I came out today, to get new ideas on how I can bring more people here as well. Thanks.
That's so awesome.
Good evening. My name is Ronnie McTeer, and I just want to say I'm so pleased to be here for this STEM session. You mentioned, I think Taleb mentioned, how do you reach more people? I just heard about STEM just this morning. So I made it a point, took off from work to come here because I had to be in the mix. So I'm so very pleased to be here. So a little bit about me. I'm a small country girl from Louisville, Kentucky. Went to University of Louisville, graduated mechanical engineering. I left home, went to Chicago, worked there for about 8 years for GE as a regional account manager. Went to Dallas, worked there for a while, and now I'm here in Washington, D.C. Been here about 4 years, very happy about being in the mix with all these wonderful people in different organizations and such great conferences and information. One of the things I do, I currently work for an organization called ICF, and I see my competitor sitting there. I actually work for the BGE Energy Efficiency Program, and I implement energy efficiency programs up in the BGE territory, so working a lot in the Baltimore area. So implementing these programs, what we do, we give large industrial companies incentives for implementing energy efficiency equipment. We give them incentives based on the amount of energy consumption that they reduced with this new equipment that's, highly energy efficient. But the main reason why I'm here today is because I work a lot in Baltimore, which is an area that has a lot of disadvantages. A lot of them, I don't see a lot of women in energy. So just a month ago, some friends and I were sitting around talking, and we've decided to open up an organization called GEMS, Girls Interested in Energy Management. And I'm here at this conference to meet as many people as I can to get connected and partner with STEM to help make this epiphany of mine come true, at least in the next 6 to 9 months. So that's why I'm here. I'm all ears, and I'm excited to be here in the room with such great folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Clifton Sparrow. I am co-founder of College Ease. We're basically here to take part in the STEM4US festival to basically learn more about how we can get the great opportunities that are available in STEM in post-secondary and even in high school, make that available to the students that need the information the most, because as we see, usually the students that need the information the most are the ones lacking the information. So we've created a business out of basically giving the information to the underserved populations that need it the most. So I'm all ears, and I always enjoy learning about what new resources are available. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Morgan Butler, and I am here on behalf of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, and I'm actually their digital media associate, so I have been taking notes pretty much the entire day, and we are doing a blog post on it because that's one of our focuses, is energy and technology among minorities, so I'm just here covering that.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latanya Pegues. I am a proud graduate of Howard University. And I have the privilege of being a physicist and a mathematician as well. So exciting to be here, and hello to my fellow colleague, Talib. And it's just really wonderful to be here in a session about making STEM cool. And so that's what I do in my daily life, if you will. My background is pretty interesting. When I was at Howard, I worked at NASA at Greenbelt, Maryland for a while. And then I used to go to Los Angeles every summer to work at Hughes Aircraft Company doing low temperature physics research. So how do we make STEM cool? Well, we talk about cryogenics, which is cool. And we show experiments, we make it cool. I think that especially in the sciences, for whatever reason, we are still teaching it like we were in the 1900s. Guess what? The century has turned, and we've got a new way and a new approach to that. You know, just observe your audience. What is it that they find stimulating? And that's what we should do, is create content that appeals to them in a way that makes it fun, exciting, and cool. And when I do public speaking, I talk to young people about my experience working on the DirecTV spacecraft. I've done satellite engineering, as well as part of a team to make sure the spacecraft is working properly before it's launched. In addition to that, I've been on the team what they call mission control, so to make sure the spacecraft gets from Earth to its proper orbit in space. So that sounds all kind of cool and neat, and then I also talk to them about my entertainment industry experience. And they're like, wow, did you say you're a physicist and you've worked in the entertainment industry? So there's all these different ways that we can collaborate with different folks, even the football people like he had reference to. There's different ways that we can find people that these young folks appeal to. It's like, oh my God, that is so-and-so, whomever that person is. Like Mary J. Blige, she was doing some spokeswomanship for NASA, and I'm sure that a lot of people got interested in that. And just real briefly, one of the projects that I worked on with NASA in my firm, which is BOAS Enterprises, we do different types of fun things with STEM as well as communications, public relations, and professional development, was NASA had hired our firm to do a national PR campaign for the first total eclipse of the sun taking place in Southern Africa. So yeah, and that was a great contract, by the way. We need another one. But as far as, I was like, okay, so what can I do to get young people involved? Yes, I can tell the world about it, but I want to reach the youth. So what we did was we connected with inner city schools throughout the United States that were located in places where there are NASA facilities. So we created an opportunity for them to go there. And then I also partnered with the National Society of Black Physicists. So when those young people went there, of course, being at any NASA facility is super exciting. And then they saw people who look like them. And I think that's one of the best projects I've worked on in my life as far as getting young people involved and engaged. So here to help, so glad to be here. I'm going to give you all my cards because I want to stay in touch with you.
Thank you so much. And as I see one of our exhibitors coming up, as you know, the title of this is What It Takes to Make Energy, Tech, and STEM Cool. And you were reading my mind because I was about to ask, what, of all of our exhibitors, what does it take to make STEM cool? And if you could send a representative up from each one of your tables to share with us what you think, or that answer from your perspective, we'd like to hear it.
My name is Angela Ballard-Landers, and I'm a Community Outreach Coordinator for the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission. Now, I'm going to ask the rest of you in the audience, because I've heard a lot of physics, math, science. Do you know what WSSC does? Water. There you go. Good. We're a water and wastewater utility, and often people don't think of us as a STEM organization. We're engineering-based, but we're looking for water, wastewater operators. One of the goals I think is very important is that we educate students for those who may not go to college for whatever reason. Water and wastewater operators are an entry-level position. We have police officers, we have physics, we have scientists, whatever role, we have police officers. But I think it's important to get kids to think about science, math being cool. We have a program called Sewer Science, where we educate high school students about water and wastewater operations. Now, we do it at a wastewater treatment plant. They get to come to the plant, spend the day at the plant. They get to replicate their own wastewater treatment plant, and then they get to tour the plant. We offer it free. So don't discount WSSC. Often students don't think that when you say wastewater, when they really found out what it is, it's like, ew. But operators make great money. They have a major responsibility because they have to make sure that it's being treated properly. The water you drink, we've treated. When it leaves your home, it is considered sewer. What happens to it? It has to be treated. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dara Baker, and I work with the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, which is the government agency that regulates offshore energy. And one of the things that I think we miss out on when we're trying to talk about STEM is that you don't have to be a scientist or a mathematician to be involved in STEM. I was one of those crazy arts kids. I was an English major, but I'm still involved in a STEM field, and I'm still making a difference in STEM. And so lots of times there's that really huge push. You have to be an engineer, you have to be involved in science and math, and that's what's really important. But if you can't communicate your message, then you're going nowhere. So STEM isn't just about STEM. It's really about how everybody is involved in making our world and our future the most productive and positive that it can be.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicholas O'Rourke with Thorpe Energy Services, field coordinator over there. I find it interesting that in today's society there's such hands-on amongst the youth with technology in their hands, with cell phones and iPads and Androids and things of that nature. And with that comes application making and things of that nature. I know a brother over here with College Ease has capitalized on that as pertains to providing this service, making college transition from high school into college that much easier. I think hardcore education to that end somehow within our high schools and even in our colleges that capitalize on taking this thing that is often used. We all have some 20, 30, 40 apps in our phones, and yet not very many of us that I know in my generation or in my sphere of influence actually knows what it takes to create one of those. Right. And I know there's a myriad of ideas that are there for people to kind of create these things and to capitalize on them. I believe there's revenue to that end, or whatever the case may be. So if there is some way that could happen, there was some mass education on a easily accessible level, like public schools, things like that, I think that could also help to make STEM cool. So thank you.
Great. Hi, my name is Marlena Jones, and I'm a representative for the DC STEM Network. We're located right over there. And one of the ways that I believe that we make STEM cool is by making it accessible to students in school and out of school, and making it interesting, innovative, and fun at all levels, from pre-K all the way up to 12, and then into college. If students don't see themselves as being able to be in a STEM field, whether or not it's a traditional STEM field or a non-traditional STEM field, then they won't consider it as a career. So we have to intervene with the students at a young age and even at an older age, middle school and high school, and introduce them to opportunities where they can get their hands wet, where they can do science or do engineering or technology, incorporate math, and make it real for them, and understand how it relates to their everyday lives.
Thank you.
Hello, Scott Kalpin with Pepco Holdings. I would agree with what most of the statements have been made this afternoon. And also, too, I think it's important that we obviously continue to talk about education, but also giving opportunities for real projects, real hands-on activities. Because if you just educate and don't give those individuals, those young individuals, the opportunity to actually be part of a project, to be part of solving the problem, that's what's fun. Mm-hmm. And I think also educating in terms of the changing industry. For our industry, per se, we have smart technology. 10 years ago, we didn't have smart meters. Now we have real-time information. Databases of real information on your iPhone. Didn't have that 10 years ago. So as we continue to see different industries change and add technology, I think that's what's cool about the industry changing and STEM in many different ways, in a lot of different industries. So I think just real hands-on projects is really important.
I thank you. Thank you, everyone in the audience and the exhibitors, for sharing. I wanted to save the best for last, and that's our esteemed panel. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. And as you introduce yourself, I'd like you to think about the following question. As you know, what it takes to make energy, technology, and STEM cool. And as you're thinking about that, I want you to tell me, if in the guise of media, how can we leverage the media to make STEM, technology, and energy cool? Let's start with Ms. Garcia. Oh.
Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for the invitation to join my colleagues up on this panel. I have the pleasure of being the STEM director for the District of Columbia at the Office of the State Superintendent of Education. And I think when we consider how we might proceed and how we might innovate and develop pathways for youth to explore STEM at a state education agency and then in an infrastructure across this city, we're very thoughtful about providing students accessible opportunities or equitable opportunities and access to connections with adults, connections with professionals, but also trying to figure out how we can capitalize on what makes STEM real for kids, and real meaning relevant, engaging, authentic, and we want to make sure that students have access to what's meaningful to them, and then meet them where they are, listen to our students, and then really provide them the opportunities to engage. in meaningful and authentic learning experiences, regardless of where they're located in the district, in school, out of school. We often say in the District of Columbia, we have a plethora of resources. We have an embarrassment of riches in the district, meaning there are numerous cultural institutions that are free, and not often other cities don't have that accessible to them. We have NASA in our backyard. We have Pepco around the corner. And so our youth don't often have the opportunity to engage with these agencies, but we're really trying to make strides to make that happen and to make those connections more concrete. Because making STEM cool is great, but also sustaining that cool is our goal.
Thank you. Mr. Curry.
Afternoon. I'm Demetrius Curry and one of the co-founders of College Ease. What we do is we help students go from high school to college in a kind of unique way based on a digital platform. We basically took the model of college admissions and recruiting and decided to keep it in theme with everything, make it cool, meet the students where they are now. And it's working out for us in a very unique way, but it's kind of funny because I'm a very unfiltered person, so you're going to get my unfiltered answer.
Okay.
As far as how can you make STEM cool? As far as it relates to the media, and I think that we have to look at how STEM is portrayed in the media. It's not portrayed as cool, it's portrayed as funny, the butt of jokes. If you look at some of the more common shows, the popular ones, Big Bang Theory. If you look at even some of the dramas they have, like Numbers, they're not the main characters, they're the quirky ones, the ones that have issues, the ones that you'll laugh at but not really want to be. I think as far as the media, that needs to be changed as far as perception of what STEM is and what kind of careers it can lead to. Because just like any other stereotype, if it's portrayed and perpetuated, it's going to always be held. Going all the way back to when I was younger, and it was like, people found out, you read books, you read. All of a sudden you were a nerd. No, I just wanted to enhance my vocabulary and maybe learn a couple things. But that was a stereotype, and I think as far as in the media, that's being perpetuated with STEM and all the careers that it leads into in all the TV shows. When you look at all the ones like even CSI, the one with LL Cool J, the tech people are always the quirky people. They're never people that look like us. Who, okay, I do have quite a few tattoos, but that's a whole different thing. But I think as far as media, it needs to be portrayed and be made to something that's actually fun and cool and something to aspire to, as opposed to something to just laugh at and go, oh, that was cute, it's quirky. So that would be my answer for that.
Thank you. Ms. Halgren?
Thank you. I'm very grateful and honored to be here. My name is Christina Lewis Halpern. I run All Star Code, which is an organization I founded 3 years ago. All Star Code's goal is to close the racial gap in tech, and we're doing that by providing young men with the skills, networks, and know-how they need to succeed in the tech industry, and that's teaching computer science, entrepreneurship, in growth mindset. We're based in New York City. As far as making STEM cool through the media, I agree with what Demetrius said, that definitely many television shows today really often focus on things that are just exciting. Like, where's the MacGyver of of today? I mean, he was cool, and I'd say also more broadly in their culture, there's an emphasis on success that can be really disheartening to to students who are working day out in a classroom. And I think that television shows and everything in the media and even in our own lives, what we tell our youth and our children should really talk about the mistakes that we've made. And in the movie you see someone sort of tearing their hair out and like working, and that's like 30 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, and they kind of speed it up, and then it goes on to the success. And I think stories that really talk about how arduous it really is to succeed at anything. But particularly in STEM and in computer science in particular, which really requires being willing to bang your head against a wall for a really long time before you can move forward in a certain solution. I believe the media and all of us could do more to tell that story in an accurate way.
Thank you. Dr. Monty?
Whoops. Hi, I'm Greg Monty, and I'm from an HBCU, North Carolina A&T in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I direct the Energy Center there. I don't think I'm prepared to speak about the mass media because my oldest of 5 children is 26, and she hasn't had a TV since she was 4.
Oh, wow.
And none of my children did. So I would also say that they all think I'm cool, even though I'm a nerd engineer from MIT. And, but I've started a lot of companies, and I think I can address this notion, I think you brought it up first, is, you know, bringing reality to these kids, giving them a sense of what is cool about doing the job in STEM or in engineering. You know, every child in America has one of these if they're over 6 or 7 years old, maybe now. And they don't understand, you know, just how wonderfully cool these things are. And it's hard to know because not too many people can explain these things. So I think it's imperative on all of us as parents and adults and educators to go in and explain these things. So one of the things that I do in my personal life is I go to math classes at high schools, particularly those of where my children go to school, and I give them lectures and talk about how these things work sometimes. Like, how does GPS know where you're located within 10 feet on the Earth's surface? And it's really quite simple. It can be done with geometry and simple mathematics, or you can use calculus and make it a little more complicated. But it brings a sense of reality to these kids because they all depend on GPS now. Their friends know where their friends are, and everybody can connect through their phone. So that's really important. A couple of other things that really stick in my mind from my life's history. At MIT, one of the most vivid images that I have is when every Saturday the school would bus in literally thousands of students, hundreds of buses, to come in and just have them tour the MIT campus, to go into laboratories, to see demonstrations. So they were really reaching out since that time, even to this day, they do the same thing. I've been in companies that basically made every employee an ambassador of the company. And we went out and we gave engineering talks to the schools. So we brought it closer to reality for many of those kids, and hopefully it touched some of them. I think we're genetically disposed to become engineers or scientists, I think, in some cases, and others will be in the areas of the arts and sciences and communication. We have to have success there, or we won't communicate the right way. So I think it's incumbent on all of us, adults and parents alike, to go out and do our fair share of selling the coolness of it, because it is cool.
Thank you. And lastly?
Good evening. My name is Christina Sullivan-Mutia. I'm with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and I'm so pleased that this year, for the 45th annual legislative conference, that we do have more of an emphasis on diversity and tech careers. And towards that end, I'm sure you all have heard that the CBC Tech 2020, which is an initiative that CBC members have launched in May, at the end of May of this year, to really propel the effort in engaging more students of color to apply for various programs. And so one of the things that I do at the foundation, I manage our internship, fellowship, and scholarship programs. And we entered STEM officially last year, August 2014. I was told within a 90-day window I had to find 19 students. Half of those need to be STEM, and they need to go to China. And I said, okay, we typically focus on getting students acclimated to legislation and policy and nothing to do with study abroad, but in any effort, we made it happen. We sent 19 students, half of those were STEM students, to China. And it was an extraordinary experience. And because of the success of that, our program grew, where we sent 40 students this year to China, 20 of them STEM. And so we are extremely pleased that what we're doing with the education piece at the foundation is in line with the CBC Tech 2020. In addition to that effort, we just recently launched our general internship program for STEM students, where we actually provide an opportunity for STEM students to work in a CBC member office, non-CBC member office that has a STEM policy portfolio. Because as you all know, there is a clear intersection between legislation and STEM. And I'm one of those, I'm a social science person, by the way. Yeah, hey, I'm sociology. I barely passed Algebra 2. So I applaud those of you that in math. I absolutely applaud it. It's wonderful. My young son wants to be an astronaut, and he is really engaged with science. And so I am just pleased to actually be here and just open up the opportunities for you all to network with us. We are looking for partnerships in the STEM arena. We are brand new in it as a foundation, and I can tell you our students, we attract students from all over the country, the best of the best, and we're looking to really get a foothold in the STEM space.
Thank you so much. And let me, before asking the next question, let me please thank all of you for what you do to better the lives of students. And I want to quote Representative Jackson Lee, where she says, "Generation Now and the pathways you're making for Generation Next." I thank you all. Dr. Monty, you were talking about going out and making it real for the students, bringing it to the students. And some of the other colleagues started to talk about, certain things they didn't do so well. Could someone or some of you on the panel talk a little bit about, everybody knows that a lot of minority students, particularly students of color, African Americans, males, females, have this notion before they're even double digits that they're not good in math. And as such, they tend to not do math. We know that we can equate coolness with success. So if we have successes in something, then we want to continue to pursue it. Can you talk a little bit about where you think so many children are being turned off in math, why that's happening, and what we can do to leverage what you do and what educators need to do to keep that light on? Pass the mic.
I think we have a tendency to be scared of STEM, and there's a public sentiment that it's okay to default to, well, chemistry was really hard for me, or I struggled through calculus, or math is hard, and it's okay. And but we wouldn't necessarily say the same thing about someone not being able to read, right? And so when does math become hard? It starts with, when does the conversation about math become difficult for parents and families, or when does the conversation about math become difficult for the teacher teaching the course? And does that start in elementary when a teacher maybe had one course in math preparation, and so maybe they're not comfortable talking about numbers as a story? Maybe they're not comfortable talking about fractions on a conceptual level, and we know that fractions lead to algebra. And so you start this progression of it's okay not to be good at math, because as a society we say, well, math is hard, so it's okay, and then I found it to be difficult, so it's okay for you to, and there's a certain acceptance associated with it. Where we want to move the needle in math, the District of Columbia has started several early math initiatives. We're doing an early math collaborative with Erickson, working with our early childhood teachers and providers at some of our CBOs and some of our schools to really start talking about what early numeracy means. Where do number stories begin? It moves beyond being able to understand two-dimensional shapes, and it's about really understanding what is the student observing about their world around them and nurturing and cultivating that math sense and moving forward with that. So I think it starts as early as 3 and 4 years old, and with those teachers and moving up from there.
Well, in my work, I work with high school students, so I spend a lot of my time thinking about the transition to college and what students do in colleges, since many of our partners have looked to us to, are recruiting from college or looking at what students do in college as they actually look to employ these youth. And in college, one of the biggest factors in persistence in computing studies is actually a sense of belonging. You know, irrespective of, you know, all other things being equal, if they feel, you know, if you feel like you fit in, if you feel comfortable there, you feel people actually care about whether you succeed or fail, you are more likely to persist with it, whether it's hard or not. And so when we think fun, like sometimes as educators we think, okay, well let's make it project-based and let's make the classroom size smaller and let's train the teachers better, which is of course all true. But to make it fun, I mean, why don't we fund regular pizza parties? Why don't you incorporate these curriculum ways to make it, actual fun, social, create space for it, not to just be, work all the time. Not that that's not a part of it, but the social things, community, and fostering that sense, I believe really can make a meaningful difference in persistence.
Thank you. Also, everybody in the audience, please feel free to use the mics if you have any questions. Another question I'd like to pose to you is, so we know, we talked in the last panel about how we really need to be K-16. And as you think about K-16, I also want you to think about the educators. And my question to you is, who do we have to make STEM cool for the most? The educators, the younger child, the adolescent, or the young adult? Who do you think that we have to put more work in to make STEM cool?
I think I'm gonna jump on this one first. I look at things from a little bit slightly different background because I wasn't a STEM student. I was a student who was able to do complicated math in his head but was made to feel like that wasn't cool. So don't ever let anybody do that, know that. So I really say that, and part of what we do is, I get the whole K through 16 thing. I think that at a certain age, when kids are younger, everything is cool to them because it's just the wonders of knowledge. And as we've talked about before in other places we've gone, when students hit high school, that's when it starts to change and die because now I need to fit in. Okay, let me downplay the fact that I'm actually, intelligent. And then it's also the matter of, we work with kids. Me and my partner have worked with kids over the years, and it's just the amount of, and just to go off what Maya was saying, people would say, oh, well, you're not going to need that math outside of here. You don't need to do anything outside of higher than algebra because when are you really going to use it? That's akin to saying, well, you don't need to learn anything longer than a 3-syllable word because you'll never use it. You can't have it, but it's just pushed out there by not just other students, but by some educators as well. And when you look at it, the case, and I really want to say this, and no offense to any educators that may be in here, I don't want to get hit with bricks outside, but I've run across educators who barely understood what they were trying to teach. They're teaching it off of Xerox sheets. And so therefore, I've actually had an occasion where I helped a student with a math problem. They had to have me come into the school because their teacher could not understand how I got to the answer.
I believe it.
And I realized, yeah, that's wrong on so many levels. It's just, we have to make it cool for the high school kids, and even going as far as junior high, because make it cool for them, because they're still riding off that I can do anything. I can be an astronaut, I can be a physicist, because it's cool. But if the teacher is not reinforcing it that it's actually cool, when you get to high school, you have too many outside influences. You have your friends who, guess what, may not be on the same academic level. So if you have somebody saying what you want to do is cool, you know what, you want to study physics? That's great. You want to study quantum physics? Even better, I don't know what it is, but I'll find out and we'll find a way to make it cool. Maybe we'll devote a day and we'll, like you said, pizza party. And you know what, with the pizza party, let's do some math. If there's 32 students in the room and we have 3 pizzas cut into 8 pieces, start there. But we have to do it, both the educators and the students. That's just my opinion.
And I would agree that the age group that's the biggest challenge is really maybe 7th, 8th grade through high school. Once they get to college, I think their pretty much self-motivated to go into the areas that they want to study. When they're young, everything is a party, a pizza party or whatever. You know, I think they're excited. My personal experience with all my children is that once they got to high school was where the challenge came in. I had 5 girls, so they all, they're just not thinking that they're going to be scientists or engineers or that they have to understand math. So I always tried to bring it back. Every problem, I noticed that the textbooks are not written in a way that I would like. I think that math, people don't realize that you only do math because it's a tool to explain the world around you. So I have given that lecture to every one of my kids over and over and over again, and that math is nothing but a tool. It's just a method, it's a language, if you would, that helps you understand things that can't be explained any other way. But it's hard for them to capture that and to understand that at that age, and I think it's just it's a difficult age. So you got to really push on them then, keep them aligned, keep them in order, and make it fun as much as you can. At our university, we have a STEM-based high school right on the campus. So those kids are exposed to college-level excitement every single day that they come to campus. 1,000 kids that come there, and they're all in STEM. It's a STEM high school, and they get to see this. It's sort of like that MIT model where you bring kids every weekend to see the cool stuff that's going on. But got to stick with those high school kids and don't let them go.
That's true. You have the mic?
Yeah, thank you. A lot of questions. First of all, thank you all. I'm sorry for being late getting here. But I guess my first question would be, are we teaching STEM in a balanced way? By that I mean, we become so dependent upon technology after a while. Once you learn it, what would happen if we were to have massive solar flares? All our GPSs would go out. Are we prepared to survive thereafter? So the question, I guess, are we teaching in a balanced way? When we teach this, I recall when I was in I guess junior high school, that type of thing, we were learning certain tools. Before we could use electric tools, we had to learn to use the hand tools. So if they went out, we always could fall back on the hand tools if for some reason the electric tools work. Are we teaching that with our technology now? That's my first question. And should I ask my next one now?
No, let's give them some wait time.
Okay.
I'm sure we got somebody who wants to tackle
that. To respond to your question, I think when I think about a classroom and the learning space we try to create for our students, both in school and out of school time, in the K-12 sphere, we have to think about what are the tools that are going to get my student to the aha moment, and regardless of what that tool is, whether it's tech-based, whether it's an app, whether it's a computer-based program, or it's a hands-on learning experience that's perhaps not associated with technology, or maybe they're starting to learn how to use the abacus so they can learn to count. It's about meeting the needs of the child wherever they're at, and whatever the means I need to use to get there, that's what we want to promote, and that's best practice for professional development and teachers across the board. And so I would say it really depends on how the educator designs a learning experience to be accessible for all the students, and that's really kind of the focus. And I think when you keep that in mind, then the technology is just a tool we use to make things easier.
Anybody else?
I would just add, I do not like the use of calculators up through high school. I wish that they were pretty much banned.
Amen.
For the most part, just because it's hard to get that physical understanding between math and the world, or physics and your calculator. The calculator is sort of in between, and it stops the thinking process and understanding process a little bit. And that might be old school thinking, so just write it off as an old person thinking that, right? I mean, it could be I'm completely wrong, in other words. But I I encourage people not to use the calculator if they don't have to.
And I'm going to add on to that, once again, I look at things slightly differently. I understand where you're coming from. I'm a parent. I taught my kids, do your math in your head first. Do it on paper first. I can't, like everybody else, I'm not a big fan of technology too early. And if you are going to use technology, teach them the basics first. Or else you have instances where, and I'm sure we've all had it, where you go somewhere to get something to eat and the register isn't working and they can't figure out how to make change. And you're sitting there going, once again, if technology broke down, how would that work? But if you go back to the basics, we don't have those problems. And I can actually empathize because GPS, I don't even use mine. When I was in the military, I learned how to tell direction and find places. This thing, it's a paper thing you fold out, it's called a map. And so I learned that way. I learned directions, north, south, east, west. And so I understand the basics. Can I use it GPS now? Yes, but the basics help me appreciate and understand what we're using now, but I have something to fall back on. So I can definitely understand what you're saying. But I think, just like Maya said, you have to meet the students where they are. And hopefully, in educators' hands, they'll teaching the basics and not just solely relying on that. And I can say, overall, most educators I know, they do that quite well. So it's what people that usually frustrate us, that I'm sure you're running this off the examples of, I would love to say are anomalies and outside of the norm.
And if I may add, Dr. Monty and Maya, you say it so well. It's about technology isn't necessarily the newest best thing. It is the appropriate use of a tool that was developed to make something easier. So if I have GPS, thank you, Lord, for GPS, but if I didn't have it, then I would have to divert to using a map. And that's still technology because it was a tool that helped to make what I was doing easier. And I think that what we have to do as we bring up Generation Now and Generation Next is make sure that they understand that there is a strategic use to technology and that they appropriately pick the right thing, because picking the calculator when you're doing 1 + 1 isn't the right thing, because you are stopping the thinking process. And we want thinkers. So we have to not only get the students to think that, but those who are educating the students to think the same thing, to not always go for the easy way out, but to look at what is the best use, what is the best strategic use for this technology to solve this problem or situation.
And you touched on the other question.
What's that other question?
The teachers.
Yes.
The adults. That's us. Are we measuring progress by technology? By that I mean, what's good, has worth and value. If it's not technologically or if it's not new, it means nothing. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but for those who, let's say, have acquired the skills or understand how the GPS works, you're the one that matters. The others, you're nothing. Now, the reason I'm asking, because if that's our values, our belief systems, what good is all this technology? As you said, technology, all the inventions and discoveries that makes life easier and better. But if we're going to take this technology and use it, for example, to kill other people, you can make an airplane that allows us to go around the world. Then we take the same device, technology, and kill with it. What does that say about our values? I coined the phrase deathnology from that, to be quite honest. So I'm thinking humanity, and I guess the last question, are we born human? I don't think so. I think we're animals, we're primates, mammals. We all have tailbone, cocks, what? So, in keeping in mind, because if you look at society right now, we have advanced technologically quite well. But archaeology tells me that there was technology years ago, if you look at some of our parts, out-of-place artifacts. Are we headed for what might have happened before? And I don't know if it's true, but based on the technology that I look at, I think there were nuclear explosions years ago when you look at certain artifacts. So are we headed? So I'm saying we must learn there's a balance of how to use technology. If we're going to invent something like a gun, a fire, and use it to destroy mankind, I don't consider that progress. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was a lot of different areas you covered in that one. So this is, once again, the disclaimer is this is only my opinion and not the opinion of collegees. Please reflect accordingly. But I do understand where you're coming from. And since the beginning of time, if you look at it, the capability for anything to be used for good or bad has always been, really at the end of the day, it rests on the individual. The same way that a long stick can be used to hit somebody else over the head like they would do back in the caveman era, could also be used to build a house and create shelter. The same stick that you beat somebody else with could be the one that you warded off potential predators with. It's all a matter of individual beliefs, systems, and morality. And so therefore, even with technology, yes, the technology has been used to hurt other people, but I like to think in the grand scheme of things, more technology has been used to help than hurt. And there's no way to really fix all of that without saying that really, truly, at the end of the day, you would have to fix an individual person's beliefs and morality. And that's way beyond technology's capability. If technology ever gets to a point where it can fix a person's morality, and I'm not sure it's going to be a good thing. But I do understand what you're saying, but I would think that it really boils down to the individual use of the technology, the individual person's beliefs. The same calculation that can be used to create energy can be used to create a bomb made out of the same energy. Which do you choose to use it for? And at the end of the day, I think that goes back to what are we teaching the students and children ourselves, more so than what is the capability of anything that we have. Yes, history repeats itself through different cycles. We know this to be true. But you have, at some point, I think you have to have a belief in the greater good of what you are doing and the skills and knowledge and wisdom that you are imparting, and hope that when that student and that child grows up and you've taught them the calculation to maybe create dark matter, they use it for the greater good, as opposed to something that's going, can go completely other way. But you have to have faith in the base principle that when people see the potential for good, they'll tend to lean that way instead of the other way. Sorry.
And to extend on that, I think that's why having a community supporting a student as they move through this process, as they're exploring, they're being curious, they're tinkering, they're building apps, they're learning how to code, is so important to have someone there next to them, a mentor, a teacher, adult of some sort, a parent, who's asking questions. Why are you making those choices? What are you doing? What are you hoping to discover? Because so many of our teenagers, they scare us sometimes because they don't want adults to intervene. But when you press them and you challenge them in that way, you work out a lot of those logistics, and you help them grow their social emotional health so that they are applying a moral framework to what they're doing, which is so important. And so I think community is really important as our youth move through and do STEM.
Thank you. Last question? Yes, we have more time. Last question. Can we do? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. I know with tech companies and internet and things of that sort, tons of money is spent on user experience. And far as STEM, I've seen programs, we built a business out of programs that people thought kids would love. Like, we're beyond them now. We feel we're still young, but we're beyond what they find cool. Do we do things as simple as, I don't know, focus groups, or just meet with a bunch of young people to say, how can we make this more appealing to you? Because I find that's actually, that's the easiest way. I mean, companies spend millions and millions of dollars on user experience just so they'll come back to do that. Do we focus our efforts in that way that, I don't know, there's a few individuals that they have programs with STEM. Do you talk to the kids and do focus groups like what's cooler, this, or what do you think will reach more students in your, specific field or your area of interest? Is that something that we're considering, or?
Well, we did a lot of focus groups and research in the founding of All Star Code, and also we talk to our students regularly. So just in an anecdotal way, our students love the ideas, being able to build things, the independence and freedom that comes with being a creator and with being a maker. After a program, our students say, one student said in particular, I didn't know that the world could be so free. That I am so free that I can do these things on my own, and it's really quite beautiful. And this was actually a surprise to me that the creativity of it, is taking an idea and be able to make it real, would be so powerful for our students, because at least I was surprised at how strong that was, as I assumed that honestly the business aspect of tech and being able to make money from being able to build a website and charge people do this would really be a primary factor for our students, 70% of whom are low income. But the creativity part of it is really where the passion comes from. Of things one student said, I'm not a coder, I'm a baller. And he meant, he said, I'm sorry, I don't look like a coder, I look like a baller. But he's of course both. Yeah. That's what he said.
Yes. You have all inspired me so much to let's make STEM cool. I started as a performance artist. I went to college, they said, you have to be great at math to study audio engineering. I thought it would be cool to work on a large format recording console. It wasn't until I was 35 that I went and I did that. My question to you on the panel is, a while ago I went to Uganda and I recorded local spoken word artists. When I came back and I was mixing, my son started listening to the raps and the rhythms and started learning Luganda and Lunyankole and Achole that way. He was having problems in Algebra 2. I said, well, you like to rap. Why don't you start using, so he started using rap and rhythmic palaver as a way to study for science, for English, so forth and so on. How can I, as a private citizen, get involved in helping people with STEM through what I've already learned and seen? I don't know how to do this, but you all just inspired me. Thank you.
Any ideas from the panel?
Yeah, actually. Exactly what you just said. Go with it. Start there. Take the experience you have with your son. Notate everything. See what he responds to. What does he pick up on faster? What works for him? And just go from there. And if it's truly something you have a passion about, oh, it's going to come to you. It's going to flow. You're going to see exactly how to put it together. My business partner and myself, we ran across a company at South by Southwest that does the same thing, but for reading and comprehension through spoken word and music. So I know that there's a market there, and the fact that your son was able to do it and apply it toward math, yeah, I would be interested in seeing how that works. Only because in algebra, okay, yeah, for real. That's fantastic. Then run with it. I mean, you already have the basis of it, and from a strictly entrepreneur standpoint, do it. You by simply saying that that's something you want to do, that's the first step.
If I might ask, did you talk to the school about this? Any of the administrators there?
I didn't. It was something he really took on his own, and then he would share it with me, and I was like, that's amazing that you did that, you know? And while I was sitting here listening to you, and I'm actually working with the group today in live tweeting, I thought, oh my goodness, this is like both of them together.
Yeah. Well, I would not knowing how, if you want to take it in like a business direction, if you're talking about something community oriented, it's certainly like study groups and working together and peer learning is is very valuable for for students. I don't know if your son or what kind of community your school has, but encouraging like study groups, off-site time where students can come together and come up with those kinds of tools would be just sort of a community thing as a hobby. If you want a company that's kind of different. But I studied with friends in school, and we came up with little mnemonics to remember, different formulas, sinus, minus. I don't know what it means now, but I still remember. So that sounds like.
Yeah. And there are so many different STEM activities that are listed on the web. You can type in, like for this preparation, I typed in STEM cool into Google, and I got a million websites. Then some of them, you know, listed. They're like a list of all the lists of websites. You know, so there are so many opportunities in FIRST Robotics, and just having somebody like yourself, who's an audio engineering expert, coming in and sharing that experience with a group of students, you know, participating in FIRST Robotics. They could be using sound and things like this to build their robots or to make them do what they want. And you know, it's that sharing of that information. It's the sharing of ethics. If somebody wants to keep technology from destroying the world, I don't know where that gentleman went to. You know, that comes down. I'm a pro-technology guy, so I'm going to make the technology, and I don't care about the ethics so much. I let other people worry about ethics because that's not my interests. I'm not even, I mean, I try to be ethical, but I want others to set policy. You know, I'll do the technology, others can do what they do better than I do. And so I focus on what's good for me, but there are so many teaching and education opportunities for every adult in this world to go out. Even if they're not engineers, they can share their knowledge for a team, because it takes all kinds to make a team successful, all kinds.
That's so deep what you said, because all the music he was listening to was not talking about Algebra 2. When you talk about ethics and, you know, just having that balance, you know, having a balance. Thank you so much.
There's also a professor named Chris Emdin, E-M-D-I-N, who's out of Columbia, who's a PhD and whose study is kind of hip-hop STEM teaching thing, yeah.
He's pretty active on Twitter.
Yeah.
If you tweet him, he will tweet you back.
Hip-hop math.
Talk to your son. Yeah.
I sort of have a couple of observations and statements I just want to make. I was listening to her, made me think of Sesame Street. You know, Sesame Street taught in a certain way. I mean, African people learn a certain way. We're very rhythmic. You know, music, we learn through music. We do a lot of stuff through music. You know, so that's very important to us. I wanted to buy a computer 15 years ago, so I asked some people, what computer should I buy? Should I buy a PC or should I buy Apple? You're a creative type person, you do photography, you do video, buy Apple. So I bought Apple computers. But also, Apple was very smart in their every campaign, because they went after the creative people and also the nerds. Because when you go to Apple, there's a Genius Bar. So people are doing this in a very creative way. You know, we need to, if they can do it commercially, then how come educators are not doing it as well? How come education is not doing it? And also in terms of education, you can go all the way up through high school, I'm pretty sure, by just doing what you're told to do, and you're told that you're intelligent, you know, but you're really not. You're just a parrot. You're repeating what you're told. You know, there's not a lot of interest in, there was on the previous panel, the education, I think DC Public Schools said they're teaching people to be critical and analytical thinkers. Okay, now that's, I think, is very important in terms of STEM as well, you know. But it's a lot easier to teach somebody to do as I say. You know, I even think the whole Bush initiative was basically with its testing. You know, No Child Left Behind. That was really all children left behind, because you're basically being taught to be a parrot. And so I just had a couple of statements.
Well, thank you so much. I want to thank again the panel. You've shared a lot of things. I know one of my take-homes is that it's a shared responsibility for us to turn the image of STEM from one of not cool to cool. And also from our extended panel here in the audience, it's really important that we stop and think about the intended audience. And we don't know everything that's in a child's head unless we ask them. So thank you all very much for participating with us today. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kareem, and he will get you to the next step.
Well, first of all, I do see there are a number of our outstanding exhibitors who are departing. Before they depart, let us give them a round of applause. I mean, they truly, I think, made this day, from Pepco to Dorp Energy Services, U.S. Telecom, the Department of Interior's Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement. I mean, BSEE, let's give them a big round of applause. I never even knew that their agency was here. And in fact, if I could indulge you all, because President Obama just sent his representative for girls and women in STEM. And I think it would behoove us to give her an opportunity to come and address us. And so we like to ask if you all would not mind, do you all mind, if you can give a few minutes to the President's advisor to the White House on women and girls, Dr. Kimberlyn Leary. Please give your attention to Dr. Leary.
Thank you very much. I do apologize for joining you at such a late hour. But I bring greetings from Valerie Jarrett and from Tina Chen and the Council on Women and Girls. And we are very happy to have been invited to be a part of this panel. You know, thinking about what we need for our girls, for young women across the nation to succeed very clearly involves fostering their success in school and specifically their engagement with inclusive STEM education. That's actually one of the priority areas that we've identified in the portfolio I have for the Council on Women and Girls, which is focused on women and girls of color and women and girls from underrepresented communities. We have 5 pillars, and inclusive STEM education is one of those. There's several parts of the STEM milieu that I'd like to speak to just very, very briefly. One is that we know that in order to produce the kind of workforce that's required, not just today, but in the next 10 years, in the next 15 and 20 years, we need to make sure that we are exposing all of our children to the skills and capacities they need to succeed. Our nation requires that for its economy, and we also require that for our very security, with the importance of cybersecurity becoming more and more evident with each passing day. So as we think about what's needed for inclusive STEM education, we're well aware that we have to start as early as possible, pre-K in the primary school years, and then to make sure that kids, all kids, particularly girls, have access, the full access, mandated by law in order to avail themselves of higher education in math and science, to make sure that there are capacities for them to take advanced placement exams so that they can succeed when they get to college and university. But it doesn't stop there. Once in college and university, of course, we have to make sure that they have the mentors who can guide them through what it takes both to succeed at university and to begin to plan a career in STEM. And then once they get to graduate school, if that's the route they take, although many STEM careers, as we know, can be accomplished and wonderful lives can be had require a training program or a 2-year college degree. So we want to think about the full STEM milieu. But once a young woman gets to graduate school or even in her first job, that need for mentoring and for fellowship does not end. So our goal is to try to look across the whole STEM ecosystem, to look at the images of STEM that we see on TV, that we see on social media, to make sure that the STEM mentoring programs are available to all girls, and then to make sure that the supports exist in high school and college for them to prosper. We also have to just think broadly about how do kids learn best, and we know that active learning strategies benefit all, but they particularly benefit minority students, and there's some research that suggests that they particularly benefit young women as well. So we applaud this attention to STEM. We very much think of it as critical, a cornerstone really, to the work that we're doing at the Council on Women and Girls. And fortunately, we have also the Office of Science and Technology Policy at the White House, plus all of the agencies are so involved in the effort to coordinate and make available STEM offerings. We just did a data call across all the agencies, and I think 18 agencies came back with distinct STEM offerings. So that shows you how seriously the administration values STEM and how important it is to our day-to-day efforts, whether we're in education, in energy, in commerce, the Department of the Interior, USDA, all recognize the importance of this for all of young people, but at the Council on Women and Girls, of course, our attention is focused on girls and young women. So I thank you very much and applaud all of the work that you are doing.
Let's give her another round of applause. She came all the way from the White House. She was, of course, doing any myriad of tasks that the president and his, not just his men, but his women were directing her. And she made sure that she came and joined us before we dispersed. And so I think that was very important. I also want to just kind of recap some of the conversations. We started this conversation talking about the $1 billion that we are going to raise over the next year in order to invest in STEM, to make sure that this conversation just doesn't, remain in the potential, as my mother used to say, there's two types of energy, as we know, potential and kinetic energy, right? And so we wanted to make sure that this doesn't just remain as potential energy, but it actually translates into kinetic energy. We talked, the following panel, we talked about the whole idea, led by Congressman G.K. Butterfield, of why technology and energy industry executives themselves have the ability to change the equation. Right here on this stage, we had the leading telecom companies being represented. We had the leading energy companies, the leading wind energy companies, the leading natural gas companies. We had an executive from the nation's capital, the energy company serving the nation's capital. And they talked about, well, what are the ways in which we can actually achieve this $1 billion objective, and what are the ways in which some of our students out here can get some of the opportunities that these companies are producing, and why they need them, in fact. Then we went on to have a conversation with members of Congress to talk about, with both our Energy Department executive as well as our Federal Communications Commission executive, what are the opportunities that their two agencies are focused on in order to create a lasting legacy that people can look back on the Obama presidency and say the Obama administration made a difference, particularly in energy and technology. And then we continued that conversation with an SEC commissioner, along with some of the people in the financial services community, to talk about what do we do to create a gender equitable and a colorblind venture capital community. What can we do to eliminate this disparity that exists, where only 1% of all venture capital money is being invested in companies led by African Americans, and only 2% is being invested in companies led by women? What are some of those things that need to be structurally, almost as they say in the technology spaces, how do we totally, disrupt this paradigm and create a new paradigm? And then we continued the conversation with a panel of outstanding educators, and we talked about what is happening both in the classroom as well as in our training and our vocational spaces, to make sure that we had a pipeline of outstanding young people who could, and in fact, and adults alike, who could go into some of these jobs and create the types of changes that we would like to see. And then finally, we have this conversation on STEM, making STEM cool, right? So I have a question to each one of you all. You say that you're committed to making STEM cool, right? Well, let me ask each one of you all, and I'll say this, that the STEM4US over the next year, we are committed to raising $1 billion. I'm almost emotional, because Reginald Lewis, my law school professor, the late Jerome Schumann, used to talk about your father so often in our classroom, and we idolized him. We were taught about some of the financial transactions that he was involved. This is at Howard Law School for anybody who happened to know again of Professor Schumann. But he was passionate about your father's work and on how we could be Reginald Lewis's. Each one of us in our classrooms were taught that we could do the same thing, that we could have a $1 billion company, that we could make the types of changes that your dad made, and that we should aspire to that. And so, and I remember when he passed away, and I remember reading his book, and I remember almost the very, the end of that book, You know, and I didn't want to end that book, you know, but I remember the end of it and where I was and how I felt, and seeing you and reading about how your father loved you and your sister and your mother. I mean, you know, it's just, again, a very emotional, it's a recollection of my mind. And so when we talk about raising $1 billion, right, the first, you know, concept that comes in my mind is your dad's work and doing what he did. And so I want to ask each one of you all, and I'll start with you, Christina. Well, will you join with us? We would like to invite each one of you all to serve as either our advisors or board members for STEM4US as we go for the next year, to help us to achieve this goal. Because we believe passionately that if we can do this, then we can come back to this conversation a year from now. And not only will this room be packed, but we will be able to show the works that we have been able to accomplish as a result of us getting together in this room. And as you know, all good ideas start from a conversation. And sometimes the rooms aren't packed during those conversations. But I want to ask each one of you all, will you make a commitment to us, in front of the camera at least, that's you know, again, able to transmit this, and our colleague is live tweeting this as we speak. Will you be willing, if you say that you're willing and passionate about making STEM cool, will you be willing to join with us, Christina?
Well, I thought I was already here with you, and joining right here, right now. Of course, this is my passion, and Talib, I'm so impressed with what you've built here. I think we should talk more about it to hear how and what my particular skills can be useful, you know, to you for what you're looking for. So while I am here now and joining with STEM4US, we do, and I want to be able to be helpful.
Excellent, excellent. And Dr. Leary, how about you guys over the White House? Would you be willing to join with us to make this a reality?
Well, I think I can say that if you look at the administration's record with respect to making sure that STEM and technology is used to improve all of public service and government, that is something that we see as foundational to this administration, from the digital core that we have working to make sure that data is available in ways that folks can use in order to get an understanding of what their community looks like and how the police force is working and so forth. I mentioned all of the initiatives we have going across all the agencies to support STEM. And in the White House with the Office of Science and Technology Policy and the Council on Women and Girls and the Domestic Policy Council, all of our groups are busy thinking about how can we make data cool and useful, I guess I would say. So we are right with you with the sentiment, and I think we're always open to ways of figuring out how can we work with an array of partners in order to make sure that our collective goals are realized.
Excellent. Christina?
Well, I think, Talib, as I said earlier, I have a deep passion for the STEM arena, and with not only just because of my personal background involved with it, with my husband, he has 2 PEs in fire protection engineering and mechanical, and my son wants to be an astronaut, and then of course with yeah, and he's very good in math. And then, of course, with my capacity at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, with our tentacles being spread into the STEM arena with our China Study Abroad program, and also with our general internship and fellowship programs, with our energy fellowship programs, as you know about, and our general internship programs, I want to definitely explore how the foundation can work collectively with you all, with STEM4US, and I'm willing to find out how we can mutually benefit from that particular partnership.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. And Dr. Monti, I know you represent one of our outstanding deans of the historically Black College and University engineering community, Dr.
Dean Koger. Dean Robin Koger, so I'm representing her today because she was very busy with something else. But I'm sure that we want to step up as one of the leading HBCUs to participate and do everything we can.
Thank you.
And I'd be happy to help.
Thank you very much.
Whatever
Demetrius?
skills I can give you.
College ease. Are we going to make this, pathway to college easy or what?
You know I'm a very unfiltered person to live. You sure you know what you're asking for with us? But yeah, we're in.
Excellent.
We're definitely in. One of our main goals and one of our main initiatives also for the upcoming year as we grow, we're actually on track to hit 13 million students worldwide, both domestic and international. So one of the things that we're actually actively doing is trying to work with other wonderful esteemed colleagues that we've met here on how can we push more interest toward the STEM fields. And so it kind of lines up right in place with what we're trying to do as it relates to underserved communities and just the minorities of this entire tech and STEM field as it relates to everything, both domestic and international. So as we go along through that, absolutely, we're in.
Excellent. And over at OSSI, I know you guys are doing some wonderful work at exciting our young people as well as our young adults, and both in terms of the classroom as well as the vocational piece. And we need to increase the vocational training opportunities that we have here in the District of Columbia. Are you willing to work with us to make sure that gets done?
We are. I think we just launched our new DC STEM network this year, and Marlena's there representing it, and we're looking to build capacity. We want the District of Columbia to be the STEM city for the future, and so that means that we want to create pathways in numerous levels, IT, biotech, all of the different fields, and so we're looking to partner, and we're looking to figure out how we can make sure our students have access to all of those opportunities.
Excellent. And our colleague from Prince George's County Public Schools, you thought, well, we're going to let you get out of here. You know, you were moderating it. Are you willing to join us? We talked about having a sit down with your CEO immediately after this conversation. Are you willing to make sure that you join with us to make this happen a year from now? So if you guys are willing to do this, then prayerfully, once we announce that we have raised the $1 billion, we are going to commit to spending at least 20% of that $1 billion on a campaign to make STEM cool. All right? Are you all willing to make this happen? Are we going to make STEM cool? All right, then. Let's give ourselves a round of applause and make this happen. Well, absolutely. And we're going to inform the rest of the people who are not in this room how cool it is. Thank you very much on that. One moment. Let me just make this quick announcement, and I'll let you say this. So again, we're going to be concluding the round of conversation from here, and we're going to extend that out to NASDAQ's headquarters. As you know, NASDAQ is the stock index that basically houses all of the cool technology and energy companies. They're opening their doors here in DC to us to come and network with some of their executives. And we want to invite each one of you all to join us. We've sent out some emails. We want you guys to also invite some of your friends who might be in the area. We have, in fact, they can use a discount code that gives them practically free admission to the event by just using STEM4US. So feel free to do your social media. But we look forward to continue this conversation this evening and spending this year with you. And each one of these people are going to be also held accountable because they said that they were willing to work with us. So we want you all out here to hold them accountable. But let's give ourselves a round of applause. This gentleman right here is going to have the last word.
I was just wondering if you all had, and I apologize, you might have done this. I've been in and out and was late. I apologize. But is there or has there been any single issue that seems to be the greatest barrier to the development or the advancement of STEM?
Yes, we talked about that, and that's a great point. And you'll be able to find not just the answer of your questions, but the answer to all the questions that anybody might have by going to our website, which is STEM4US.org.